Welcome to my Silverfast 9 tutorial. In this video I will show you my personal workflow using this application. Now I do this video because there aren't as many videos or tutorials online as to how to use the newest software, and I also think that especially at the beginning Silverfast can be quite difficult to navigate and figure out stuff. So first, I want to address this section right here. And in this instance, I'm shooting with negative film. If you're shooting with positive film or slide film, you can select positive right here. Next, I am using this for color and 16 to 8-bit for black and white, if you're shooting black and white. Now I always scan in JPEG because I don't edit the images further after scanning. And I'm also using the optimized format right here. And I scan with 80% quality because this is actually the upper limit. So if you're scanning at 100%, you will get more megapixels, but the image quality will not get any better. Now I leave the densiometer and the navigator alone, and also the image settings. As you can see here, the middle tone, the contrast, and the saturation, I will leave all on 0 because I think the contrast and the saturation as they are in the software are pretty good, and I don't need to increase the contrast or saturation. Now to the negafix, I also don't select a certain film stocks because they often don't have that certain film stock, for example like Cinestill 800T, 400D, etc. And also because I think the profiles don't really look that good in my opinion. Now the color correction and the auto exposure I will not turn on if I don't really have to, and I will explain this a little bit further in the video. So now here I do a pre-scan right now. Now this is our pre-scan image, and as you can see it looks absolutely horrible, and that is because the exposure before, as you can see, it was just all black, was really different compared to this scene right here. So in this instant I will quickly turn on the auto exposure, and now it just looks that much better. I will adjust the frame a little bit. And now I will turn the auto back off. If you don't turn the auto exposure and the color correction off before the final scan, the exported image will look drastically different as compared to here. So always turn these two off before you do the final scan, and this is something that I think the entire internet doesn't really know yet or doesn't publish this. So here in my histogram I will do my exposure correction. If image is a little bit dark, I will move just the middle point a little bit up, as you can see. But I think in this image about 3 is fine. I don't touch the highlights or the shadows because I want the maximum dynamic range, so I leave them both as far to the left as for the shadows and as far to the right for the highlights as possible. Now, if the colors are a bit wonky, you can turn on the color cast removal. This is all in German because I'm from Switzerland, but in this instance, I think the colors look really good, and I just grab the global color correction right here, and here's the reset. If you want to reset something, that's really handy here. I usually do 6 clicks to the red and 5 clicks to the yellow. And this gives me just a little bit more warmth, which I like in my images. And now I can turn it off. And as you can see, it's just a little bit too blue and too green in my opinion. So it adds a little bit of warmth that this place also just has. And now I am really happy with my image. You can see all the settings. Let's just turn it back to 0. And now I'm ready for my final scan. So about 5 minutes later, we have our final image, and you can open it up here. Let's just take a little look together. And I will put this right here. And as you can see, the colors and the contrast are exactly the same as in the pre-scan image. And that is because at high resolution, the highest possible, I have turned off the auto exposure and the color correction. That is very, very important. If you don't turn these off at this high resolution, you will get different colors and also different contrast, which obviously you don't want in your final exported image. And I want to zoom in a little bit just to show you the great amount of resolution there is. I typically scan with the Plustek Opticfilm 8200, which is a great scanner. I can't recommend it enough. As you can see, it's about 10,000 pixels and almost 7,000 pixels in height and just about 10 megabytes, which is also really good for such a high resolution image. And the colors all just looks really good. There is a lot of dynamic range. You can see the details here in the shadows, and also the details are still in the clouds. It's all really good. And I think Silverfast just also does a great job at scanning these images. And now I just did a quick pre-scan of a different image, as you can see here. And without adjusting the auto exposure right here, I think the exposure looks really good and I don't want to change it. But I can see that it is just for my liking a little bit too warm. So this is because I have the color correction turned a little bit towards the reds and the yellows. So in this case, I will actually turn this off. And now I think it looks much more balanced and fits the overall blue hour color temperature. So I'm happy with how this image looks. I don't need to do any further adjustments, and I will now do a final scan. Okay, so again, about 5 minutes later, we want to take a look at our final exported image. Okay, so here it is. Quickly compare the pre-scan and the final scan. And as you can see, because we turned the auto off again and the color correction, the colors do look really similar, and also the contrast and exposure, of course. And again, we want to zoom in, and it's just great quality. The Plustek does a really, really amazing job with capturing this fine grain. The color of the grain looks amazing. And yeah, just the resolution, 9,000 pixels, it's really large. And now here is something interesting which I want to point out. As you can see here, it has a lot of chromatic aberration, this is called. So you can see in high contrast settings, such as here, there is a red, almost purple looking blur, and on the opposite side there is blue blur, as you can see here. So this is a subtle way to just that the image pops a little bit more, and is a really important, in my opinion, film characteristic. Now I also quickly did a scan with the resolution of 3600 ppi's, and here on the left, of course, is our 7200 ppi image, which is the maximum resolution image. And right off the bat, you can see a little bit of a shift in color if you look really carefully. Of course, if you zoom in, the resolution will be much better on the 7200 ppi image. Now, I think the dust particles look about the same size, and as you can see, there's just much more information in the grain as compared to here. It's much more washed out, and yeah, it just doesn't look that nice. So I would highly recommend just always scanning your images on the highest possible settings, because yeah, it just looks a lot nicer, I think. And as you can see down here, it's about 10,000 pixels, and on the right it's about half the size, so 5,000 pixels, which is a really big difference in my opinion. Now if you have an image that is a little bit crooked, as you can see here, the lines are not perfectly horizontal, vertical, you can do you can scan a little bit of the white border with your image, and then just in the Windows normal settings, you can just adjust that a little bit to the other direction, of course. I think about that looks good, and you just don't lose that much of the image if you scan a little bit more of the border, so your images will remain quite sharp. And yeah, this is all that I have to say right now about Silverfast 9 software. In my opinion, again, it is a great software, especially combined with the Plustek 8200, which I absolutely love, and I can't recommend it enough. Yeah, I hope this brought some clarity and made things easier for a couple of you people. Of course, if you have any questions regarding the software or the scanner or my final images, I would be happy about some comments. And yeah, thank you for listening.